The rain fell hard against the city that night, the kind of cold, relentless storm that seemed to wash the color out of everything. Manhattan's streets shimmered with reflections of headlights and broken dreams. Inside a sleek black SUV, billionaire Ethan Cole sat alone in the back seat, eyes glued to the glowing screen of his tablet. Numbers, deals, contracts, the usual noise that filled his perfectly controlled life. "Long night, sir," his driver, Marcus, asked gently, watching the wipers struggle against the storm. Ethan didn't look up. "Just another one," he replied flatly. But as the car slowed at a red light, Marcus leaned forward, squinting through the rain. "Sir, I think there's someone out there." Ethan glanced up, irritated at first, until he saw them. Two little girls, no older than 10 and 6, huddled beneath a torn umbrella by the corner of an old alleyway. Their small bodies trembled as rain drenched their clothes. The older one held the younger tightly, whispering something he couldn't hear. Beside them sat a cardboard box filled with a few wet belongings, a doll, a sketchbook, and a broken shoe. Something in Ethan's chest tightened. "Pull over," he said quietly. Marcus blinked. "Sir, it's pouring." I said pull over. The SUV eased to the curb, and before the driver could react, Ethan stepped out into the storm. Cold rain soaked through his expensive suit instantly, but for the first time in years, he didn't care. He approached slowly, not wanting to startle them. "Hey, are you girls okay?" he asked, his voice softer than he intended. The older one lifted her face, pale, frightened, but brave. "We're fine, sir," she said, trying to sound strong. "We just needed somewhere dry. We'll go soon." Ethan noticed her lips trembling, the little one clutching her arm. "Where are your parents?" he asked quietly. The girl hesitated, looking down. "Mommy's not here anymore," she whispered. For a moment, the city's noise disappeared. The rain, the horns, the lights, all faded into silence. Ethan stood frozen, staring at those two small figures. In their eyes, he saw something he hadn't felt in years, a mirror of loneliness. That was the moment everything in his life began to change. Rain still poured from the heavens as Ethan knelt on the soaked pavement, his tailored suit clinging to his skin. The streetlight above flickered, casting a pale glow over the two little girls. The older one, brave yet trembling, wrapped her arm protectively around her sister, who hid her face in the folds of her coat. Ethan spoke gently, "You must be freezing. Let me help you. I'll take you somewhere warm." The older girl shook her head, clutching the small cardboard box closer. "No, sir, we can't leave our things. Mommy said not to talk to strangers." Ethan's heart sank at the word mommy. Her voice cracked, and he noticed a necklace around her neck, a small silver heart with the initials MDC carved into it. It looked old, but well-loved. He lowered his tone, soft and sincere. "I understand. I won't hurt you. I just want to make sure you're safe. What's your name?" The girl hesitated, glancing at her sister, then whispered, "I'm Lila, and this is Emma." "Hi, Lila." "Hi, Emma," Ethan said with a small smile. "I'm Ethan." Emma peeked up, her big brown eyes full of innocence. "Are you an angel?" she asked, her voice tiny and trembling. Ethan blinked, taken aback. "No, sweetheart, I'm not. Mommy said angels come when you're scared," Emma said softly, hugging her doll tighter. Something in Ethan's chest cracked open. He reached into his coat pocket, pulling out a handkerchief and gently wiped the rain from Emma's cheeks. Well, maybe she was right. Lila's voice wavered as she whispered, "Mommy went to heaven last winter. We were just trying to stay near her favorite bakery. She used to work there before." Her voice broke. Ethan's breath caught. Her favorite bakery. He turned to look across the street, and his heart stopped. The old, boarded-up shop with the faded sign reading, "Mom's Dream Cafe," stood right there. It was the bakery his company had purchased years ago, the first property deal that had made him a billionaire. Rain dripped from his hair as guilt washed over him harder than the storm itself. He whispered, almost to himself, "I took this place from them." For the first time in years, Ethan Cole, the man who thought he owned everything, realized how much he had truly lost. That night, Ethan brought the two girls back to his penthouse, a place that touched the sky but somehow always felt empty. The moment the elevator doors opened, the warmth of the room wrapped around them. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a glittering skyline, yet it was the small fire crackling in the corner that caught the girls' eyes. "Wow," little Emma whispered, her tiny fingers tracing the marble counter. "It's like a castle." Ethan smiled faintly. "You can stay here tonight. You're safe now." Marcus, his driver, carried in a tray of hot soup and blankets. Lila hesitated before taking one, her manners showing through the hardship. "Thank you, sir, we'll be gone by morning. We don't want to cause trouble." Ethan's voice softened. "You're not causing trouble, Lila. You're my guests." The two girls sat quietly on the rug, eating slowly. It was clear they hadn't had a warm meal in days. As they began to drift off to sleep, Ethan noticed a small, folded piece of paper sticking out of their worn backpack. Gently, he picked it up. It was a child's drawing. Crayons had faded from the rain, but the picture was clear enough, a smiling woman standing in front of a bakery with a pink heart over the door. Above it, written in shaky handwriting, were the words, "Mom's Dream Cafe." Ethan's breath caught. His throat tightened as he looked closer. The smiling woman in the drawing wore the same necklace he'd seen around Lila's neck. The same initials, MDC. He sank onto the couch, memories flooding in. Years ago, when he was still climbing his way to the top, he'd purchased a small bakery on that very street. His lawyers had handled it, just another deal, just another toe step toward success. He never knew the family who had lost it. Until now. The next morning, the city woke to sunshine, but Ethan Cole didn't feel its warmth. He stood by the window, coffee untouched, staring at the skyline that once made him proud. Behind him, soft laughter filled the air, the sound of Lila and Emma feeding his golden retriever, Max. For the first time, his penthouse didn't feel like a museum. It felt alive. As he watched them, something shifted inside him. The same hands that once built skyscrapers now trembled with guilt. He couldn't erase the past, but maybe, just maybe, he could write a better chapter. That very afternoon, Ethan canceled all his meetings. His assistant panicked on the phone. "Sir, you have a board presentation in an hour." "Cancel everything," he interrupted. "Some things are more important than money." Driving through the city, Ethan stopped at the corner where the old bakery stood. The once bustling shop was now boarded up, covered in graffiti, the sign, "Mom's Dream Cafe," barely visible beneath the dust of time. He stood there silently, imagining what it must have been like, the smell of fresh bread, the laughter, the warmth. A memory of his own mother surfaced, a woman who used to bake cookies in a small kitchen and say, "Success means nothing if it doesn't make someone's life better." Tears stung his eyes. He whispered, "Mom, I understand now." In the weeks that followed, Ethan poured his heart, not just his money, into rebuilding the bakery. He called in architects, designers, and even the local community. He refused to modernize it with glass walls or luxury branding. Instead, he rebuilt it exactly as it had been, the same warm colors, the same counter, even the same bell above the door. When Lila and Emma saw it for the first time, they stood frozen, tears streaming down their faces. Ethan knelt beside them. "Your mom's dream deserved to live," he said softly. "And so do you." They threw their arms around him, their small voices whispering, "Thank you." And in that embrace, something healed inside him, a wound that money could never touch. For the first time in years, Ethan felt truly human. He looked over at the two sleeping girls curled together on the sofa. Their faces were peaceful, innocent, trusting. A lump formed in his throat as guilt pressed heavy against his chest. He whispered to the quiet room, "I destroyed their home, their mother's dream." For the first time in his life, the billionaire who had everything felt truly poor. A soft spring breeze carried the smell of freshly baked bread down the busy New York street. The grand reopening of Mom's Dream Cafe had drawn a small crowd, neighbors, old customers, and even curious passers-by who had heard the incredible story behind its rebirth. The once abandoned corner was now alive again. Laughter spilled from the open doors, music played gently from the speakers, and the little bell above the entrance chimed each time someone walked in. Inside, the cafe looked almost identical to the one from the girls' memories, warm, cozy, and full of love. The walls were painted a cheerful cream, sunlight poured through the windows, and the scent of cinnamon rolls wrapped everyone in comfort. Behind the counter, Lila and Emma, now wearing aprons with tiny heart patches, worked with smiles brighter than the morning light. Lila carefully poured hot cocoa into mugs, while Emma handed out cookies shaped like angels, a sweet tribute to their late mother. In the corner, Ethan Cole sat quietly, dressed not in his usual tailored suit, but in a simple sweater and jeans. A coffee cup steamed beside him, untouched, as he watched the girls greet every customer like family. Marcus, standing nearby, leaned in with a proud smile. "You did good, sir." Ethan shook his head softly. "They did good," he said, his eyes never leaving the two girls. A moment later, Lila ran over, holding a small photo frame. It showed their mother, smiling in front of the original bakery. The words beneath it read, "Dreams never die, they just wait for someone kind enough to bring them back." Lila placed the frame on the counter, then looked up at Ethan. "Mom would have loved this," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Ethan smiled gently, his eyes glistening. "So do I, sweetheart. So do I." As he spoke, the cafe door opened, and more families walked in, laughing, hugging, ordering cocoa. The sign above the entrance shimmered in the sunlight. "Mom's Dream Cafe, kindness built this place." Ethan watched them all, his heart full. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel like a billionaire. He felt like a man who finally understood what wealth really meant.